Hi, I'm Peggy Daw. I'm a marketing consultant here at Amino. Today we're going to have a chat with Tommy Flannagan and Phil Hunter of Rethink Research and Jamie McKinley of Amino. So Tommy and Phil, can you just tell us a little bit more about yourselves?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. So I'm the editor of Faultline at Rethink, which is our weekly video and broadband technology analysis publication. I've been here just over 5 years, and we've got a reputation basically for not sugarcoating how tough the future will be.
Super. Phil, how about you?
Yes, well, I've been with Rethink full-time 2.5 years and part-time for 7 or 8 years before that. And for nearly all that time, I've been working on the sort of Faultline and also Rethink TV, which produces forecasts and reports. And 6 months ago, I moved over to Wireless Watch, but I still cover quite a lot on the video side relating to 5G there.
Oh, that's very interesting, actually.
So this particular report that we're talking about was actually the last thing I did when I was with Rethink TV.
Okay, interesting. And Jamie, tell us a little bit
I'm
about
Jamie McKinley. I am the SVP of Sales Marketing for Amino. Good to remember my own job title. Really what I've been doing is helping the business look at how Android, looking at how Linux is evolving, how we're connecting worlds together, the streaming world with the pay TV operator world, and figuring out what the smart and most cost-effective ways of doing that are. And I think that as an organization, we're very keen on helping people make the most of this, what can be a really attractive modern video experience.
A lot of the attraction of the streaming model is the flexible subscription model. So what does that mean for the future of video services from the more traditional, cable and pay TV providers? Can they compete with that perceived flexibility? What do you guys think?
I'll start there, I guess. I mean, the obvious answer here is not to compete with the flexibility of SVOD and AVOD platforms at all, but to partner with them and aggregate with them, which is obviously a massive trend. But one of the as we've got straight into aggregation, actually, one of the things I wanted to say about aggregation is that I think operators need to be really careful about the whole super aggregation topic and taking it as gospel, because a lot of people are pushing this idea of super aggregation driven by consumer frustration about OTT fragmentation. I mean, but if you just aggregate the hell out of the service and bombard users with all these third-party streaming services, then really how is that any different to the kind of cable TV packages that are offering hundreds of seldom used channels that consumers are trying to escape from? So I think it's really funny how trends come back around. So my message there, I think, to operators is just to kind of proceed with caution and with your aggregation strategies. Try and keep it simple, keep Netflix and the other big boys happy, embrace a strong data-driven approach, and I think you've got a good foundation for a winning strategy there.
Yeah, is it about not bundling the cost of those extra streaming services? Does that overcome the perceived challenge of aggregation, or your concern about aggregation?
I think bundling and integrated billing to an extent, just not overdoing it. I think simplicity is key.
Yeah, well, one of the things we've seen from looking at the market, this whole super aggregation piece, is not necessarily the aggregated bill, because I think bill shock and all these things. You're right. You're kind of trading one thing for another. Kind of how we view it in some respects is facilitation, and facilitating because you're trying to improve the user experience, but you're also trying to improve performance. And so if you consider that one of the downsides, I think, historically of streaming services has been the kind of unmanaged nature of what's going on in terms of the devices that you're viewing on, and being over the top, if you like, streaming, is that you can't necessarily, you suffer from buffering, you suffer from channel change being slow or whatever it happened to be. So there's the research that we did recently found that actually there was a real demand from consumers to try and get the best of both worlds working together. And I take your point about the billing. I think the billing in some respects is a separate issue, but I think if pay TV companies can facilitate sort of using Netflix or Prime or wherever it have to be, and it's up to the user if they pay or don't pay or what I happen to be, but it's part of the same system. I think that's quite compelling.
Yes, I agree. I mean, I think the story with aggregation, and that I think users welcome some aggregation of the user experience and convenience. They don't want to have to be constantly flicking around. And I think streaming services, you know, at least if you live in an area with good broadband connection, are now good enough. And I think what really is the critical point is that users can add and drop parts of that overall package as readily as they and easily as possible, in a way that was difficult with the old bloated cable and satellite TV packages of the past. And at the same time, of course, some of the streaming services don't actually want to be aggregated, so that's another factor to consider.
Right.
They won't all be amenable to being packaged all together.
Yeah, because I think that's the case here in the UK with Sky Q. You know, their devices with the availability of Disney Plus on their devices, but you have to go to the Disney Plus website to subscribe, and then you do an authentication to get to activate it. So they clearly control the customer at that point.
Right, and that's similar here in the United States as well. So if I access content via some type of an Android device, I can go through the Android device to get the app, but then to authenticate the app, I have to go on a separate device, you know, be it a tablet or a computer or whatever, and put in the authentication codes, or go get the authentication code and then input it to my Android device. So I'm just curious though, so we use this term TV, right? And it very much started being all about just a device. But is it a relevant term anymore? Is TV about a device now? Is TV about an experience?
Well, it's a screen, I think.
Yeah, I think it's about a
yeah,
screen.
people do like a big screen, and to watch sort of premium content with a family or sport occasionally. I mean, I've got quite a big screen here in my office. It's bigger than I need for my work.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, as a term, I've heard people say, and calls from people that SVOD should now be classified as pay TV because the lines are blurred so much, and a lot of consumers don't know the difference or simply don't care about the delivery mechanism anymore. But I mean, that distinguishing is still important for some people, particularly in B2B. And I think if you had asked that same question this time last year, I think we would have got some very different answers, I think. But yeah, with all the latest trends and everything that no one could have predicted, I think the TV is more relevant than ever. And the role of the operator in bringing content to the TV, if not directly, then indirectly, I think is more vital than ever.
Yeah, I think the COVID-related lockdowns have had quite a profound impact, haven't they, in the last 6 months, say, on TV. I think usage figures gone right up, streaming figures went right up. And I do agree with you. I don't think the consumer sees any difference at all. I don't think they're really thinking at all about the delivery mechanism. They just want it. They just want their TV whenever however they want it, whenever they want it. You know, the cliche.
Right.
But that's what I think the tolerance level from a consumer for buffering, for poor service delivery, for things taking a long time, difficulty in searching. If you think about those things, our research certainly found that. In fact, we were reading a statistic, I think, the other day about how much time the consumer is having to take on streaming services finding content they want to watch because it's clunky and difficult to use and hard to navigate and all the rest of it.
Yeah, that is still a very big challenge.
Netflix's efforts.
Well, if you consider the contrast with, say, an Android TV implementation using voice is really profound.
Yeah.
You know, you could literally sit there and go, take me to series 2 of, Mad Men, and you're there.
Yeah, I think that kind of search does really well when you know what you're looking for. I still think that search is a big challenge when you don't know what you want.
Yeah, hasn't got there yet.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be fun to watch those advancements, right? Because with things like AI and machine learning and stuff like that, that'll certainly
And
help move that along.
the other one was this whole editorial piece about kind of curating content and helping you find things. I still think there's the broadcasters, if you like, still have a kind of strong role, I think, in providing seasons, patterns, series. You know, I'm not seeing that diminishing.
So, you know, we at Amino are in the business of providing set-top boxes, but we do also believe in aggregation, particularly, you know, using Android. But is a set-top box still relevant? I push that question maybe to Phil and Tommy specifically versus all these BYOD devices that are out there.
Well, Phil, I think you should take that one. That was basically the name of your entire report.
Yeah.
How can set-top survive?
We were really focusing on what we might call the set-top OS. You know, sometimes it's called middleware. And the report was split into two halves. Really, one was sort of looking at the traditional set-top box, how that's evolving, and what will be the movements in software there with growth, Android gaining market share there, and so on. And then the other half was the connected TV side. And under that, I included not just actual internet connected TV boxes, but also the Roku type devices that enable legacy TVs to be connected to the internet as well. Because I mean, there's no real difference as far as the user is concerned. And so in answer to your question, there is a future for the set-top box. I think eventually it is going to be entirely just a piece of software, but I think for the foreseeable future, certainly the next 5 to 8 years, there will still be a continuing market, if slightly declining, for the traditional set-top box, but the big growth in connected TVs as well, which will be accessing services from pay TV operators as well as the streamers.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and all the value is in control and data. I think we'll probably touch on data in a bit more detail, but you know, pay TV operators can't control the phone or the dongle in the same way they can control the set-top. And yeah, as Phil said, over the next 5 years or something, it'll be key. But yeah, keeping the viewer in your ecosystem without even giving them a chance to switch devices is crucial. And something we haven't touched on actually is the trend of the set-top and the home gateway merging into one device. I mean, that's what sparked the arrival of RDKB, but that's not really been as widespread as I or other people expected. But it's definitely something we're keeping an eye on anyway.
You want to have a high quality experience, particularly if you've invested in a large TV, and you really want that to be fantastic. And so, are you going to get that on your smart TV? And a lot of our evidence suggests that the smart TVs, because they're not managed, they're not particularly upgraded. There's small firmware updates done periodically, but then it's not like it's a set-top box that's been actively managed, is having regular software updates, is being kept up to date. And so suddenly some of the apps stop working, the performance, your remote control doesn't work in the way that you thought it would, etc. And it's just these little things that start chipping away at the experience. And I think that we really feel that the tolerance, I think the consumer's tolerance level, as I said earlier on, for things not working effectively is just not there at all. And you really got to, certainly here in the UK, there's mass hysteria as soon as your television is not working perfectly, first time, all the time. Whereas, there's always been this kind of tolerance of streaming services because it's coming in over the internet, you're watching on your laptop, it's not the same, that sort of stuff. But now it is the same. It's just another way of getting your telly or video on your main screen. Actually, they're expecting everyone's expectation levels has gone right up, I think.
So are you arguing then that the smart TV falls between two stools, between the managed set-top and then simply sort of online access to content from your laptop or desktop?
Yeah, I think so, because I think if you're watching something on your big screen TV at home, you're just thinking this is TV.
Yeah.
You're not thinking that I'm watching this on the phone on the bus. and I think there's, I think where the key to that is giving them the user experience and the quality they're expecting, and they're not going to get that unless that's a managed environment.
Especially when it's provided by an operator, pay TV provider. They've been managing the supply chain of feeding video to the home for quite some time, and the set-top box is the end of that supply chain at the end of the day. So their ability to understand what's going on at that device level, is it working, is it not working, in collaboration or in coordination with everything else in that network supply chain is really valuable. So I think that's interesting. So the set-top boxes, so let's assume the set-top box is viable. A set-top box we know is going to stick around for several years. But now there's these new operating systems in them that actually give them much greater flexibility in terms of actually being able to aggregate content from other sources, which is what the consumer wants. And so there seem to be two flavors kind of emerging as the front runners in this, which are Android and RDK. And RDK obviously came out of the US market predominantly to begin with, and most of its presence was in the US market. Android grew greater outside the United States before it started gaining traction here. So is it possible to call a winner or a leader?
Yeah,
or
well, that's what we were looking at, or I was in that report, in a sense.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a standoff. I mean, Android, I suppose, will be the winner, but not everywhere, and not a clean sweep. I mean, we had it at about 24% of global subs by 2025, which I think is about double RDK.
Right.
RDK is going to hold out in North America amongst the cable companies,
Right.
and also in Europe, because Sky is part of Comcast, and Liberty Global has also gone their RDK route. That accounts for a lot of subs in Europe in RDK's bag over the next few years. But then Android is being strongly promoted by other satellite operators, such as the Polish ones, and of course by the big telcos like Telefonica and Deutsche Telekom. So,
what do you think about for smaller operators? I mean, I know we always default to the Comcast and the Skies and whatnot of the world, but in fact, a lot of Amino's customers are the smaller, providers.
Well, they will tend to go, they're more likely to go Android. That's, they can do it weekends, even the cable gets it. I don't know what probably agrees with that, what we've been finding.
How do you think the pandemic has affected your forecast, Phil? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Well, I'll be perfectly honest. I've been working on wireless since then, so I haven't done the sort of updates that I would have done if I was still on that. But I would have thought, if anything, that would probably favour Android. But
Well, I think there's two elements here. One is if they are beginning to go Android because of COVID, it affected new product introduction and platform changes and things like that. So what we've seen in our customer base, there's been sort of people just extending what they do today and carrying on with that and planning for a future in a slightly different way. But we are seeing an uptick in Android. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, and I think just in general terms, we've seen an uptick on this year. Our set-top box sales have gone up quite a bit. In fact, I think we may be in line for our record year. Sold. So, but I think that there is there's still a lot of interest in people at home, even of connecting these different services together and making them work well. And and I think we're helping to do that.
Yeah, I mean, this discussion, I think, has come at a really fitting time. So well done, Peggy and Jamie, for organising it at this time, because we've just had the launch of the new Google Broadcast Stack for Android TV operators here, and at the same time, we've just had RDK4, which came within days of each other. So I think it's a really exciting.
I know, we could never have predicted that
for operators. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah. So when IPTV first evolved, everybody said, okay, it's all about the two-way data path, that you can get data back for, about your consumers. And of course, that's one of the benefits that all the direct-to-consumer streaming services have, that they push content down, they get immediate data back, they no longer have an intermediary in between. So you're a pay TV provider. did you ever really capitalize on all that data that you were able to get as an IP, in an IP network world? And or how do you capitalize on going forward to continue to stay competitive in this new environment?
Well, yeah, I think it's pretty clear, as you said, that data and AI are going to drive the next generation of TV. And I think this will form the basis of not just your typical data-driven features like recommendations and analytics, but also drive things like delivering on-the-fly UIs and context-aware transcoding, adaptive ads, predictive commerce, voice search, our old friend aggregation, and new methods of monetization, all sorts of things. I think over the next few years that'll evolve into the sort of convergence of AI and cloud TV services where it consciously learns about the end user. And from there, operators can serve things like tailored bundles and contextual ads. And I think that will ultimately improve the quality of experience.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it will have to be, because I mean, that's where the competitive landscape now lies. In becoming a data-driven business, and so if you don't work out how to analyze the data effectively, then you'll lose out.
Okay, so the lesson is that we have to pay more attention to that data. We have to figure out what data we want, and then make sure we get it, and then make sure we use it.
Yeah, it's about actionable data. And I think that we've been looking at that, unsurprisingly, quite a bit. And we're creating a lot of data, because we've always been an IPTV business, so we've always had interactive data coming from our platforms. So really, what we've been thinking about it in terms today is things like quality of service, quality of environment, looking at making sure that we're helping the customer get the best possible experience. But I take your point. It's not just about recommendations and monetization. I think there's other things. This dynamic interface changes, I think, is an interesting one. And there's quite a few elements to this, but there's no doubt that we're all in the kind of early stages, I think, of really working out how to use data properly, and then how to use that in an effective way. I think is going to be the challenge over the next few years.
Yeah, a lot easier said than done, which is why we need smart people at vendors like Amino.
Thank you.
The good news is we have other smart people.
Yeah, no, we collaborate quite a bit. Yeah. Well, I think that's it for today. I think that's all we have time for. So I just want to thank Tommy and Phil for joining us. Jamie, thanks for being in part of this conversation. And we'll talk to you all soon.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peggy.